Grab some Tums. The Longhorns' offensive numbers against Kentucky are tough to stomach. How bad was it? We'll dive in on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You were locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, BK, Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin local, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. Did Steve Sarkisian gaslight Texas fans in his post-game press conference? Plus, we'll hand out some game balls from the Longhorns' win against Kentucky on Saturday night. Yes, Texas did beat Kentucky on Saturday. I've got to remind everybody, I've got to remind myself that the Longhorns did actually win that football game in Lexington. There was so much bad, and it was such a tough watch that I know it kind of feels like a loss, but hey, the good news is the Longhorns got a road W. But there was so much bad from Saturday night, especially on the offensive side of the football. And nobody likes Mondays, and I'm not sure anybody is going to like this segment. And I can tell you, I'm not going to enjoy doing this segment. Let's dive in to how bad the Texas offense was at Kroger Field. In a 5-quarter game, the Longhorns had a total of 179 yards of offense. Not only is that the worst offensive output in the Steve Sarkisian era, you have to go all the way back to 2015, the Charlie Strong era of Texas football, to find an offensive performance as abysmal as Saturday's. Tyrone Swoops was the starting quarterback for Texas. It was the Longhorn season opener. Here's a not-so-fun trip down memory lane for you. Texas at Notre Dame. Not the double overtime thrilling victory. No, that was a year later in 2016. Obviously, that game in Austin. This was the not-so-thrilling 38-3 beatdown loss that Texas suffered at the hands of Touchdown Jesus in South Bend. I was at that game my senior year of college. Not very fun. Texas had just 163 yards of total offense in that loss. Now, some big differences between the then and the now. Notre Dame was ranked number 11 in the country at the time. That Fighting Irish team ended up going 10-2 that year. A bit more stomachable to lose like that or to have an offensive showing like that than to do what we saw against a 2-4 Kentucky team that, of course, is 0-4 in SEC play. Their only wins against Toledo and Eastern Michigan. And, oh, by the way, Charlie Strong was a defensive coach. Obviously, Steve Sarkisian is your offensive-minded coach, your offensive play caller, really your offensive coordinator as well. This is his area of expertise. He comes up with a scheme. He calls the plays. He chose the players. All of what happened on Saturday night and all of what has plagued this offense all season long falls on him. That Notre Dame game was so bad, by the way, that Tyrone Swoops got benched for Gerard Hurd right after. Also, Sean Watson, that's a name we'd all like to forget. I had forgotten him for a while. He was the play caller on offense for Texas in that loss to Notre Dame. He got stripped of his play calling duties right after that. That's how bad it was. Anybody expecting Steve Sarkisian to bench Arch Manning? Anybody expecting Sark to strip himself of offensive play calling? Nah, I don't think that's going to happen. The Longhorns also averaged just 3.3 yards per play against Kentucky. Believe it or not, that's not the worst in the Steve Sarkisian era. 2021, the 5-7 season, more things that we like to forget about as Longhorn fans. The Longhorns lost at Iowa State 30-7. Texas averaged 3.2 yards per play in that one. So, hey, a little better than that, 3.3 versus 3.2. The only reason Texas didn't beat that number on Saturday night was because they didn't have the ball, right? Kentucky dominated the time of possession. The Horns didn't have enough plays on offense to lower their average. And let me tell you, if they ran 5 or 10 more plays on offense, that number probably would have gone down and been the worst in the Sark era. Of course, Texas had just 8 first downs. Again, this was a 5-quarter game. 8 total first downs, only 2 in the second half and overtime. Not each second half and overtime. No, 2 in the second half and overtime combined. Texas had 7 possessions after halftime, 2 total first downs. Remarkably bad. Man, winning an SEC game, especially on the road, but even at home, with 179 yards of offense and 8 first downs is such an unbelievable thing. Like, that might not happen again in our lifetimes. I'm not just talking about at Texas, by the way. I'm talking about all 16 schools in the SEC, and maybe if this conference expands even more and we get to 18 or 20, I don't know if we will ever see a team win a road game in this league in which they have 179 yards of offense and 8 first downs. And couple that with, how much Kentucky did on the offensive side of the football, nearly 400 yards of offense, 26 first downs for them. That makes it even more remarkable that somehow the Horns were able to escape with a victory on Saturday night. But yeah, 179 and 8 first downs. It goes without saying that is not a recipe for success moving forward. Texas had half as many 3 and outs as they did first downs in the entire game. The Horns had 4 drives where they literally ran 3 plays and punted. And you guys don't need me to explain what a 3 and out is, but I just did anyways. 4 of those, only 8 total first downs in a game that included an overtime period. Wow. Stunningly bad. How about the highest graded player for the Texas offense, according to our friends at Pro Football Focus? That was Trey Wisner, 68.1. It's a failing grade, is it not? I guess D's get degrees if we're talking about college, but a 68.1. That was the highest graded player for the Texas offense. Trey Wisner's stat line, 12 carries for 37 yards. Had a touchdown. Thankfully, he didn't fumble it. Fumbled right at the goal line, but the ball had just crossed the plane, so no harm, no foul there. But 12 carries, 37 yards, 2 catches, 16 yards. That was the best offensive player for Texas on Saturday night, according to Pro Football Focus. And if you're not giving that to Trey Wisner, I don't know who you give it to. I don't know if Trey Wisner really deserves it. Somebody has to be the highest graded player on the offense. I don't know who else is really worthy of being in that conversation. Then you go to some of the individual numbers. I mean, they're just as bad, if not worse. Arch Manning, 12 for 27, 132 yards, 0 touchdowns, 11 carries, -1 yards for Arch. Obviously, that includes the 3 sacks. That's why his number is negative, but none of the 10 design runs that we saw from Arch Manning were very good either. That was a struggle for him and for the offense. Arch Manning's QBR on Saturday, 24. How many easy misses did he have? The one to Jack Endries, my God, I'm going to be seeing that play for years. The Wingo dirt ball midway through the fourth quarter. Emmett Mosley on that slant. I know Arch Manning took a shot, pressure right in his face, but man, that's a throw that can be made even with that hit. Like, it was Ohio State stuff from Arch Manning. I said it all last week. I think every Texas fan kind of felt the same way. Now, Arch Manning had turned a corner. It felt like he had turned a corner. And it wasn't just the Oklahoma game, right? The Sam Houston game, even the Florida game, then the Oklahoma game. It felt like Arch had played a lot better in those 3 than he did in the first 3 games of the 2025 season. Maybe he took a step forward, but it was 2 steps back for him on Saturday. He's not getting enough help. We'll get to that in a second. There's no doubt that he is not getting enough help from the 10 guys around him, but he needs to make the easy stuff look easy. There are guys that are being schemed open. There are some plays where he does have a clean enough pocket to find an open receiver down the field, and he's just missing too many easy plays. The easy stuff has to be easy. The run game, 28 carries for 47 yards, only 15 carries for the running backs. Trey Wisner had 2 carries in the first quarter. When you're getting killed in the time of possession battle, maybe you're on the football a little bit more. Try to keep your offense on the field and your defense on the sideline so they're not out there for more than 2/3 of the game. That would have been nice. I know Texas didn't run the ball very effectively, but that could at least help you a little bit in the time of possession battle. The offensive line, horrible again. Horrible again. I mean, Arch was pressured on 15 of his 32 dropbacks. We gave the running game stats. Twists and stunts killed them. The traffic cones up there. And Nick Brooks, I get it. He's a true freshman, but he's out there right now. And maybe this is on Steve Sarkisian and Kyle Flood for not having better options. This is definitely on Steve Sarkisian and Kyle Flood for not getting better options in the offseason. Nick Brooks was credited with all 3 sacks that Texas allowed. He and Connor Robertson, of course, in for Cole Hudson. They allowed 11 of those 15 pressures just at center and left guard alone. Bad. Wide receivers, probably the least of Texas's offensive problems right now, but they only had 6 catches total on Saturday. Some miscommunications there as well. We get it. I get it. The defense, the special teams, they're playing really well right now. They were elite on Saturday. The defense has been elite all year. Ryan Niblett's a difference maker. You love the kicker. You love the punter. But the dam is going to break at some point if your offense continues to play like that. Your defense and your special teams can only do so much. Your offense cannot no-show the rest of the way. That's the worst team in the conference you just played. Every other team that you play the rest of the way is tougher than the Kentucky team you just beat, and you needed overtime and a few miracles to get it done. You needed Mark Stoops to be a horrible coach for you to get that done. Wow. Through 7 games, Texas is averaging 26.7 points per game. That ranks 81st in the country. The third lowest of Steve Sarkisian's career, either as a head coach or a primary play caller in college football and the NFL. Texas 72nd in the country in total offense, 79th in third down percentage. They're in the hundreds in penalties and penalty yards per game. We could keep going. We're out of time in this segment, and I know y'all are already ready to punch through your phone or computer screen right now after all of that. Sorry, I told you that wasn't going to be fun. It wasn't fun for me to do. This offense has to get better. You know it. I know it. The American people know it. We all know it. They cannot continue to play like that. What say you? Your thoughts on the offensive showing, and what's your confidence level that Sark and company can get this thing turned around before this season falls off the rails? All right, coming up next, Steve Sarkisian said something at the very end of his postgame press conference on Saturday night that didn't sit well with me, and I don't think it's going to sit well with a lot of Texas fans either. We've got the clip coming up next on Locked On Longhorns. But first, the NFL season is here. We've got another Monday night doubleheader tonight. Our friends at FanDuel have an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets. That's right. You put down a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you're going to unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the FanDuel app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. We always talk about the NFL. They've got you covered with postseason baseball, the NBA, NHL, everything. So many ways to play. Parlays, live in-game betting, player props, more ways to play, more ways to win than anybody else. Our friends at FanDuel make the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Take advantage of this incredible offer today. Head to FanDuel.com to download the free FanDuel app to get started. And also, some love to our friends at Quo. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for your business is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same business phone system that you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that's going to keep you connected 24/7, 365. That's where Quo comes in. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so you don't have to carry 2 or 3 phones anymore. You don't have to worry about an old landline either. Quo is so easy to use. You can collaborate with your entire team, or if you're doing everything yourself, Quo makes it easy to stay on top and be responsive and professional. See why more than 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. It's Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Let's take you back to Saturday night after the game. Steve Sarkisian's post-game press conference. Kind of a weird moment that happened between Sark and the media in Lexington. Very end of the presser, there were a lot of questions about the offensive struggles, right? What went wrong? How can you fix this moving forward? What do you think of Arch's performance? A lot of hard questions and a lot of, I'm sure, questions that were frustrating for the offensive coach, head coach, Steve Sarkisian, to answer. Here's about a 12-second clip here. It starts with the last few words of Steve Sarkisian's final answer to a question from the press. And then as he's getting up to leave the podium, the end of the presser, he just kind of throws this one final shot or just says this one final thing. You be the judge.
We've got work to do to try to figure that out.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, y'all.
All right, guys.
It's good to be 2-1 in the SEC.
Sark saying it's going to be 2-1 in the SEC, and then bangs the table and gets up and walks out with kind of a wry smile on his face. And I think we all know what that was, right? Sark, again, annoyed, frustrated, bothered by the negative tone of the questions that were being asked about his team's struggles. And in Sark's mind, hey, we're 2-1 in the SEC. We could still get to the conference championship game. We could still make it to the college football playoff. Why are you asking me all these hard questions? Our team is perfectly fine. And he treated that as if everything that happened in the Kentucky game was so good that nobody should be asking him any hard questions. We won. Why are you questioning me? We won. You all should be happy. Ignore the fact that y'all just witnessed the worst offensive showing at Texas in more than a decade. Just talked about that. Ignore the fact that we just got doubled up in total yards by the worst team in the SEC. Now, don't worry about any of that. We're 2-1 in the conference. What more do you possibly want from me? By the way, Texas has lost in the conference, came against a team that just fired its coach yesterday. Weird thing to brag about, being 2-1 when the one team you lost to literally just fired their coach yesterday. Now, that was Sunday. Sark's postgame press conference was Saturday. I'm not mad at the media here. Maybe some of you are. The media was asking questions that fans wanted asked. They wanted answers. These are the answers that fans are looking for. Like this Texas offense, Steve Sarkisian before the year was talking about how this offense was up for the task of competing for a national championship. And now there are people wondering if that win against Kentucky was the last win we're going to see from this Longhorn team this year. I don't think it's going to be that extreme, but I've gotten texts and there are some tweets where people are asking if that's it for Texas. That's how bad things were. And instead of, kind of falling on the sword, you get at the end of that press conference, Steve Sarkisian deciding to gaslight Longhorn fans at the end of the presser. Nobody likes that. Oh, don't pee down my leg and tell me it's raining, please. Like, that's Tom Herman stuff. That's Brian Kelly stuff. Did that to the LSU media earlier this year. And ask LSU fans how they feel about Brian Kelly right now. I thought that was pretty bizarre behavior by Steve Sarkisian. Again, these are very fair questions. Yes, your team won the football game, but you were very fortunate to walk out of there with a W. And it's not like you're the defensive coach and your side of the football is playing great right now, and your side of the football is the reason your team won. No, you're the offensive guy. Your offense nearly cost you the game. If your defense and special teams were miracle workers, you would have lost that game by 3 or 4 touchdowns with how bad your unit played. And you're gaslighting Texas fans? I always say this. Nobody cares about what a coach says in a press conference when their team is playing well. Nobody cares at all. You can give short answers. You could be an a-hole to the press. You could say whatever you want as long as your team is playing well and winning games. But when you're not playing well, people care. And Longhorn fans are not like, yes, we're 2-1 in the SEC. We're in a great spot. We're about to make an incredible push. We're going to go 5-0, run the table, and make it back to the SEC championship. I don't think any Texas fans, after watching that offensive showing on Saturday night, are thinking like that. I don't think anyone's like, yeah, we're 2-1. We're in a great spot. Wow, we just beat Kentucky. That's awesome. Things are going great right now. No, that's not the feeling in Longhorn Nation right now. And again, Steve Sarkisian, this is your offense. You chose the players. This is your scheme. You call the plays. You have to figure this out. He knows that. People want answers. I don't really care too much about press conference answers. I want more on-field solutions. That is what I'm looking for, because 13 points in regulation, that's not going to be enough to beat Vanderbilt. That's not going to be enough to beat Georgia. Not enough to beat Arkansas. Not enough to beat Texas A&M. Hell, Mississippi State next Saturday. I don't know if that's enough to beat them. Mississippi State, by the way, has lost 15 straight SEC games. That is the longest active streak of consecutive conference losses in the country, regardless of league. Really like to not lose that one, because the schedule gets a lot tougher after next Saturday too. But yeah, that was a bit of a shocker here. Y'all tell me if I'm overreacting, if it's not gaslighting. Would love to get your thoughts on, again, just kind of a weird moment. I thought Sark answered most of the actual questions fine during the presser itself. And for him to act like everything is all peachy right now after what that game was like. Texas is a 12.5-point favorite to need overtime to win by 3. That didn't sit very well with me. I think it's safe to say. All right, Take your thoughts. One final segment. Hey, Texas won, so we've got some game balls to hand out. Spoiler alert, none of these are going to the offense. The defense and special teams, there were some tremendous individual performances. Obviously, great collective performances too, but we'll talk about some of the best players from the Longhorns' 16-13 victory on Saturday night. Next, right here on Locked On Longhorns. But first, some love to our friends at Monarch Money. Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what we're worth, right? Between 401ks and savings and investments, it's easy to lose track. And that could mean leaving money on the table. That's not what you want to do. That's why Monarch Money exists. This is an all-in-one personal finance tool that helps bring your entire financial life all together into one clean, easy-to-use interface right there on your phone or your laptop. It's so easy to organize all of your accounts, visual dashboards, smart tools, make it easy to understand where your money is going, and it's easy to understand how to make your money work harder for you. You don't have to worry about spreadsheets ever again. It's all so simple with Monarch Money. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, monarchmoney.com is the website. Locked On College is the promo code for 50% off your first year. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Some game balls from the Longhorns' road victory at Kentucky. We will start with special teams. You could hand out a bunch of these to special teams and defensive players, but we'll start with Ryan Niblett. The only thing that sparked the Texas offense was Ryan Niblett in the punt return game. He had 2 punt returns on Saturday night. They averaged 44 yards. He had the 45-yarder in the second quarter to set up the Longhorns' lone offensive touchdown of the game. And then a 43-yard punt return. I can't believe Kentucky kept punting it to him. Really blew my mind. That final kickoff for regulation, even though there was very little time left on the clock and it felt like overtime was inevitable, I was still stunned that the Cats decided to kick it to Ryan Niblett there, considering what he had done in the punt game that night. But, the 45-yarder to set up the touchdown, the 43-yarder to set up the field goal late in regulation. That should have been the go-ahead field goal for Texas. But Ryan Niblett was sensational. Obviously, those coming off the heels of the 75-yard touchdown return that he had against Oklahoma. He's a weapon. We've been talking about it all season long. When he catches the ball, when he feels the punt, he can make guys miss. He can make things happen. He is a home run hitter, finally starting to field some of these punts, and good things are happening for Texas. And, of course, they needed them in Lexington. Shout out to Mason Shipley as well. He wasn't bad against Oklahoma, but he did miss a couple of field goals. A 55-yarder and a 56-yarder. Those aren't easy for any college kicker to make, but a bounce back. He nailed a 53-yarder barely, and obviously the game-winning 45-yarder at the end of overtime when the Texas offense did him 0 favors. They moved backwards in the overtime period, making it a harder field goal than it would have been if they literally just kicked the ball on first down. Oh, my gosh. Amazing. Some of the situational ineptitude by the Texas offense in this game. They went backwards in overtime, but thankfully Mason Shipley was able to save the day. He hadn't had to make a super clutch kick so far this season. There's nothing clutcher than end of overtime on the road in the SEC. Massive kick right down the middle. Perfect stuff for Mason Shipley. 3 for 3 on Saturday. Bert Auburn doesn't make that kick. I think it's safe to say. Good get by Steve Sarkisian and Jeff Banks. Credit where it's due. That was a nice portal find, as was Jack Bomeister, the Aussie punter, who, of course, transferred in from Utah. 8 punts on Saturday. Obviously too many, but 0 touchbacks. And he pinned Kentucky inside their own 20-yard line 6 times. Averaged 42 yards, 6 pins inside the 20, 0 touchbacks. He was a wizard on Saturday. He was very good and helped with the field position game. He made sure that Kentucky was going to have to drive the length of the field to get their points on Saturday. All 3 of those guys in that third phase of the game really showed up and huge parts of the Longhorns' victory. Now to the defensive side of the ball. Again, you could give game balls out to a few different guys, but we'll start with Anthony Hill, who was just all over the field. He got hurt in that game. Looked like a hand injury. I don't know if we ever heard anything official of exactly what it was, but Hill only missed a couple of plays. He came back in and had an interception. I think on the same drive that he got hurt, he comes back in and makes an incredible play. Like, there are DBs in college football. There are DBs in the NFL who can't make that catch the way Anthony Hill did. That was an incredibly athletic play. Interception for him. Had a PBU as well. 12 tackles, 8 solo. Both of those led the team. Again, responsible for the one takeaway for the Longhorn defense. The one takeaway for either team in the entire game. Texas could have had 3 or 4 fumble recoveries. That's like the one bad thing the defense did. And also special teams too. I think there were 2 muffed punts by Kentucky. And the ball's on the turf. And somehow, some way, Texas couldn't get them. Stunning stuff. But Anthony Hill, a huge game for him. Colin Simmons as well. You know, I think I said it in the postgame show that we posted yesterday morning. Texas's 3 preseason All-Americans on defense all looked like All-Americans. Just talked about Anthony Hill. 3 sacks and a forced fumble for Colin Simmons, who has 5.5 sacks in his last 2 games. He's come into his own. He looks like the player that we wanted him to be all season long. One of the most feared pass rushers in college football. You can't one-on-one him. You're going to have a bad time if you try. I hope teams try to block Colin Simmons one-on-one. You do that more often than not, it's going to be a problem for your offense. Keep doing that, please. Simmons was great. And Michael Taft was also fantastic. He was all over the place. I think second on the Texas defense in tackles as well. Manny Muhammad deserves love. I thought Jelani McDonald played a really, really good game. Travis Shaw did miss one of those fumble recoveries. I don't know how, but Travis Shaw was huge, and he was pretty big on that goal line stand in overtime. He was in there on a couple of those stops, I think on 3rd and 4th down, when Kentucky, for some reason, kept trying to run it into the teeth of the Texas defense. That was such a gift. I cannot believe they did that over and over again. The fact that they didn't sneak or tush push or call a pass or do something, they just kept running it right into the heart of the Texas defense. Thank you very much, Kentucky, for that. That was a gift. But Travis Shaw deserves a lot of love. He made some things happen. Obviously, a big part of that Texas defensive tackle rotation. He was, I think, the best of them on Saturday. That defense, considering that they were on the field for 40 minutes. It wasn't all perfect. They bent a lot, but you're on the field as long as they were to only give up 13 points. Obviously, a couple of big 4th down stops, including that goal line stand that saved the game. Massive, massive, massive. Pete Kwiatkowski, game ball may go to you, sir. Well done. You should get Steve Sarkisian's game check from Saturday. Those guys should switch. Maybe they should switch salaries for this year with the way things are going. All right. Perhaps a little extreme. That's going to do it for today's episode. If you made it this far, God bless you. You deserve an award for toughing this one out. Really do appreciate y'all, though, and your continued support of Locked on Longhorns. Please remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment, share if you would be so kind. Can't thank you guys enough. For your next listen, check out the Locked on Bets show. Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers, they have you covered for all of your sports betting needs. Expert analysis, game picks, the lock of the day, all there in one spot. You can find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. We'll have sound from Steve Sarkisian's Monday presser, more takeaways from the win over Kentucky. Once again, it was a win, Texas fans. And, of course, we'll begin to turn the page to this Saturday's road tilt at Mississippi State. That'll do it for today, though. Until next time, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, horns up, mic's off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked on Longhorns.